Let me have your attention for a moment.
Stay calm.
What is it?
What is it?
A life form of its own.
Head straight for him!
Be afraid. The voice on the radio.
More than just a man.
This is something much.
Everything will be all right.
More dangerous.
Stand by to transmit.
Receiving you. Over.
Now hear this.
Buckle your seatbelt.
Now, Sunrise on News Radio 880 KCMX.
Good morning, everybody. 7 minutes after the hour. Welcome to the Sunrise Show here on News Radio 880 KCMX. Craig Froelich in as your host. You can always find us on the web, kcmxam.com. And on our links are all there. My email address is there. The phone number, 541-772-8255. And, boy, we're going to have a little fun coming up this next segment. Rico Valentino and my good buddy C.W. Smith is in. He wrote the foreword for the book and helped, believe it or not, back in his law enforcement days in comparison, using Rico as an informant. Rico Valentino, the real deal.
Undercover operative.
I know it. So this is going to be unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you, this book coming out called Shooters, Heels, and Heroes, The Life and Times of Rico Valentino. And he was a world-class wrestler, started in the 50s, age 17. There's pictures in the book. And from Nebraska, we're talking corn-fed beef, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Rico is, and he's here. It's just fantastic. So excited. And when you read this book, it's hard to believe that it's all real.
Well, it is.
It is. It said, here you go. Even as a foe, there was something sweet about Rico. It was his job to come at you backwards. Valentino lived large, draping his massive torso with snappy outfits. He could be mistaken for a pimp or a movie star. His huge hat shaded his silk shirts that slid over his bulky frame. Tufts of hair billowed out from his chest, offsetting the bright colors with a little manliness. He liked the flashy life. 2 Cadillacs and plenty of government cash to wine and dine his new brothers. His job was to seduce, to make people trust him and believe that you can't mess with him, and you sure as hell didn't want to challenge him. Most people knew him as the wrestler they'd seen on TV. He grappled with the titans of the pro wrestling world, promoted matches across the country, and managed to sneak in some undercover work in his spare time. Unbelievable. This book, written by Damian Mann, and Damian, CW, you said he's in Japan or traveling or something.
Yeah, he is in Japan, or was, and I think he's due back any day now because he's going to be at the book signing.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Good deal, because he just couldn't quite make it today. But amazing book. Fantastic read. We've got books here, actually, and maybe we even give one away or something like that. I don't know.
Is this on?
It's on now. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Rico's here. Oh, fantastic. I mean, it's like John Wayne in the studio, along with former retired Sheriff C.W. Smith. This is like, I won't wet myself. No, I'm not going to do that.
Well, I'm going to tell you, partner.
I mean, Rico did it all. He drove Cadillacs, he attacked the Aryan Nation and took them down, the FBI, and an informant, all those great things. I can't even believe it. This story is going to be, you won't want to miss this story coming up.
Well, Cookie, I'm going to tell you.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
You won't believe this, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have some books to give away, so stay tuned. More on the Sunrise Show after this break. We'll be right back.
Now, back to Sunrise on News Radio 880 KCMX.
Shout, I'm talking to you, so come on.
Good morning, everybody. 17 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to the Sunrise Show. Craig Froelich in as your host, and thrilled to welcome into the studio Rico Valentino and his cohort, partner in crime, retired sheriff Dennis C.W. Smith and gentlemen, it's just an honor, privilege to have you guys in. And your new book.
We're glad to be here.
Yeah, Rico, this book, Shooters, Heroes, and Heroes. And of course, Shooters was a nickname for a wrestler.
No, shooters are the toughest guys in the world in the wrestling business.
Well, that's what I meant. At the top of the heap, the
Exactly.
top dog.
That's right.
The top dog was the shooter.
And then the heels were the guys that had to play the bad guys and lose the matches. And then the heroes, or baby faces, were the guys that got to win the matches and stuff. But Rico was what you would refer to as a shooter's shooter. But the book basically goes through when he was playing a shooter, when he had to play the heel, and he had to play the heel in real life undercover as an undercover operative. And then in the end, he's the hero because he thwarted a domestic terrorist attack in the United States.
This is really, Rico, your wrestling career back in the 50s all the way through, and then you, how did you get this idea that you could infiltrate and go undercover?
Well, I was promoting wrestling in California, and most of the guys that wrestle for me, they got to pass a blood test and this and that and a whole bit, or they don't wrestle for us. So we had one guy named Bill White was there, and one time two agents showed up and said, "Are you Valentino?" I said, "Yes." I said, "I'd like to talk with you." I said, "Okay." I said, "You got a guy here that's using cocaine, bringing cocaine in." And I said, "Who?" He said, "Bill White." I said, "You got to be kidding. This guy, his fingernails are clean, his suits are pressed, his car is nice, his apartment is immaculate, his suits are great." They said, "You don't understand. He's not using it. He's bringing it in big time."
Oh, he's fencing it. He's selling it out. Okay.
Yeah. So I spent 6 months them working for me as wrestlers. I spent 6 months with undercover agent for the government and busted him and 3 more guys with me. So that was wrestling for me.
Now, what year was that?
Last week, yeah, that's the year it was.
Back in the day. So that's really what gave you the start. And then after that, they said, "Hey, this guy does you."
Back in the mid-'70s.
Yeah. So at that point, on to your next gig, you were wrestling still, and then more undercover work.
Definitely. I've worked. I come up here one time for vacation to see my sister, and some guy downtown here, Red Lion restaurant, said, "Hey man, do you usually thump his nose?" I said, "What do you got?" He said, "Well, I got everything." I said, "Well, let's see what you got." So he said, "You got the money?" I said, "Well," he said, "It takes $10,000. I said, "Well, I've got to go see my cousin." And I said, "He's downtown here, and I'll find him. I'll be back." He said, "The guy said I'll be here for an hour or so." I went around the corner and stopped a blue and white car, and city police. And I said, "Who's the sheriff in this town?" I said, "C.W. Smith is." I said, "Okay." So I went down there. Everybody stopped and looked at me and said, "Who in the hell is this guy?"
Well, that's right, because you're out of towner, see. So all of a sudden,
Remember, he looked the part.
flamboyant Cadillac, silk shirts, the whole big, right?
Yeah.
I know. So you come in to Sheriff Smith's office, and CW finds it. And enter CW? What did you think when this happened?
Well, initially, the Lieutenant Jim Van Sant, who may be listening this morning, he walks in and says, "Boss, we got a guy out the front counter here, and he's pretty flamboyant, but he says he can do $10,000 worth of drugs tonight, and we need the cash." And I'd taken office, and there'd been a little bit of a scandal prior to my administration with neither here nor there. I didn't keep a lot of money there. So basically, I had to walk across the street to the treasurer's office and convince the treasurer to give me $10,000 cash, of which I had to sign for my life away, and brought it back. And I says,
To a perfect stranger.
Here it is, and do not, if anything happens to this money, you shoot that guy.
He should shoot that SOB.
And I was assured by Jim Van Sant he's going to be wired, and we're going to be right there. And I says, "Okay, I know, but I just want you to know that I got a lot on the line here, you know."
That's right. So
anyway, it went down exactly as Rico said it would, and from that point on, we realized this guy's the real deal. He's a shooter.
Exactly. So top of the game, so he could infiltrate all this stuff. Well, this book, 18 chapters, 151 pages. It's a great read. I'm halfway through it, and I got to this one part. this unbelievable. Stockton, California. This is on page 59. Rico went to a wild party filled with wrestlers, hustlers, and the usual crowd of punks. He had just launched into a story about his latest wrestling exploit when some drunk guy challenged him, quote, "You SOB," the man said, "I'm going to kill you." He pulled a gun out of his jacket and pointed it at Rico. People started screaming and ran for cover. Rico threw his arms up as the gun bobbed up and down in front of his face. The wrestler rushed the man as a bullet struck Rico's left wrist. A second bullet tore into his left shoulder. By then, Rico had jumped the drunk, knocking him to the ground. The gun tumbled out of the man's arms, and Rico picked him up by the blank and throat and hoisted him over his head. Rico slammed the guy to the ground as he held him down, pummeling his face. The police arrived and stuck a gun in Rico's ear. After an involved explanation and confirmation by witnesses, Rico was freed. He urged the cops not to press charges against the drunk because he had suffered enough. Besides, Rico found out the guy mistakenly had thought he was messing around with his wife. The judge gave the drunk 6 months. This is through the whole book. Yeah. This isn't just one juicy part in one chapter. The whole book is like this.
Right.
And it's all true.
Yeah, I've been called and by a number of people that read it and says they can't put it down once they pick it up. And it's all true.
Yeah.
It's all, we verified, we called the FBI agents and everything and verified everything, and it was absolutely true.
We're going to continue with Rico Valentino. He's in the studio along with C.W. Smith. Their new book, Shooters, Heels, and Heroes, written by Damian Mann, and Damian's out in Japan. He'll be back for the book signing on Wednesday out at the Butte Creek Mill. So everybody's welcome out that, and then maybe we'll get lucky and get a couple signed autographed books here today. How about that?
That just might happen.
That might just happen. All right, the Bloomberg Market Update is next. We'll be back. The Sunrise Show on News Radio 880 KCMX.
Now, back to Sunrise on News Radio 880 KCMX.
Good morning, everybody. 34 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to the Sunrise Show. Craig Flonick in as your host, and we have, oh my gosh, Rico Valentino and C.W. Smith, The Life and Times of Rico Valentino, talking about his recent book that Damian Mann has put together along with C.W. Smith, and the collaborative effort with the three of them. And they're having a book signing Wednesday out at the Butte Creek Mill, 5 to 7 p.m., hors d'oeuvres, all kinds of fun things out there. And, wow, this is great. This is just a fascinating book from the standpoint, this is drama in real life. This is right out of the annals of history books, and all confirmed. Damian Mann's done all his research, and the FBI agents and everything else, and it happened. The Aryan nations. I mean, you were the bodyguard for that Pastor Butler.
Richard Butler.
Yeah, and he's passed away at this point, but you were wearing a wire, and the FBI was following you around for weeks and weeks and weeks.
For how about
4 years.
Yeah.
4.5 years.
I mean, drugs, weapons. What was the biggest concern for the FBI? The terrorist plots and things?
They're going to blow up some places in Seattle, gay bar, Jewish synagogue. But the worst of all was the crippled children's hospital they were going to blow up.
So this was really a domestic terrorism. You know, they had locked into a ideology that was really much not unlike what's going on with the radical Islamists. These were radical Christian identity.
Yeah, white
folks,
supremacists, right?
White supremacists, you know, and so they had been so infused with this kind of venom that they were, you know, you think they're crazy, but that could be too. But the point is that look at the Oklahoma bombing in Oklahoma City. You know, and innocent people were killed, children were killed. So that's the type of people that Rico had to deal with.
Amazing. This book is available on Amazon.com, Shooters, Heels, and Heroes, and The Life and Times of Rico Valentino. And Rico, this is just an amazing book. I mean,
Thank you.
The Aryan nations, and look what it reads. They say, Rico's taught white supremacists how to put a death hold on their opponents, only to discover that Rico put his own death hold on them. He worked for local police departments, the Alaska State Police, and isn't shy about offering his undercover skills to any agency. And
we had Rico work for us a number of times as an operative, and he was I mean, he could sell ice picks to Hawaiians. This guy.
Well, and you know what's crazy is he could BS his way in and out of anything, but if he got into a situation, he'd go toe to toe with him instantly.
He can handle himself. Yeah. Well,
That's what them 44 Magnums are made for.
yeah, there was a story in the book about the guy pulls a knife, he pulls the gun out. He says, okay. I mean, this is right out of the mafia's best, almost.
well, you got to understand that this was a situation where people were very concerned. The folks in Idaho were extremely concerned. They started a civil rights center there in Coeur d'Alene to show the rest of the world that they were really concerned about these people. And they had actually tried to burn a courthouse down. I mean, so they had. The community was really up in arms over this, and they did everything. And we are going to do a major release and event up at Coeur d'Alene at the Civil Rights Center
my gosh.
this spring.
Wow, yeah, because this Aryan Nations, I mean, this is back in the 80s? When was this exactly?
Yeah, yes. Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking that was a big deal because the Aryan Nations tied in the white supremacy and, the skinhead thing and
KKK.
all of that.
And the American Nazi movement as well.
Oh, yeah,
So.
and for the Northwest, I mean, my family's actually from up there in the Palouse County on the Washington side, and I spent time growing up in Moscow, Idaho. And the issue is that was the farthest thing from our minds. I mean, there are good, simple folk up there. Farmland, beautiful. There's a college town. Washington State University's up there. University of Idaho is up there. That's in the northern part. And then Glacier National Park, you skedaddle over into Montana. This is all beautiful countryside, not what you would think of Aryan nations and white supremacy.
Well, I knew the sheriff there, Murph Stalder, and then Larry, who was Larry Broadbent, and they were very concerned about these folks, and as a local police agency, and they knew they needed help to help deal with, because they were. This was a nationwide network of folks that were just bent on bad things.
Wow. We're continuing with Rico Valentino and C.W. Smith. We got this book they've put together. It's unbelievable. They got a book signing coming out Wednesday at Butte Creek Mill from 5 to 7. And we'll be right back. We have to take a quick break. Shooters, Heels, and Heroes, The Life and Times of Rico Valentino. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. I can't even hardly believe it. All right. Get to a break, and then we'll... Can you guys stick around?
Sure.
You got a few minutes? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think we might give away a book or two. We got to get a picture in and get that posted as well.
We're both retired.
And I'm tired of being retired.
We'll be right back.
Now, back to Sunrise on News Radio 880 KCMX.
Good morning, everybody. 48 minutes after the hour, continuing, and it's so much fun. Local author Damian Mann has written a book, The Shooters, Heels, and Heroes, The Life and Times of Rico Valentino, and, of course, covered in the book, and a chapter with former retired Sheriff C.W. Smith. And C.W.'s here along with Rico Valentino, and this book. Of course, it's the real thing, and it's like having John Wayne in the studio. But Rico Valentino and he of course you play guitar as well, played a lot of the Johnny Cash tunes, and and the book has pictures in it. It's a great read, 18 chapters. It goes on, and CW, we were talking about this on the break, that this is with the Aryan nations that happened in the 80s and the FBI. This was a domestic terrorist threat. And many threats.
It was a bomb plot that was basically thwarted, and they made a series of arrests on the primary conspirators to do this. And so a lot of folks that were up there didn't have any idea, that were even involved with... This isn't an issue of free speech. That's not it.
No.
This was an issue where people were driven to extremes, much like what we're fighting today with the Islamic terrorists. So that's what it was about, and it was one of the early efforts by the FBI, and they know what they're doing. They really do, and I know that people would give them the lip, but the fact of the matter was that they really knew what they were doing. They made close And Rico may have not been the only operative there, but nobody knows that. But he wound up testifying for, and I'm talking too much, and Rico can tell me more about it. But he testified for 4 days in court in a court setting, in a federal court setting, and he was very effective. So.
Rico, it's amazing. You're so much history, so much wrestling. There had to have been some. I don't even know where to start on his memories. I just don't even how much fun that was. Wrestling, number one, because you were a shooter. You were top of the heap. You were one of the and you were so funny. You said they said you wrestled. They said yeah. He said you don't have cauliflower ears. I said well you don't get beat, right?
Good wrestlers don't get them.
Good wrestlers don't get them. But I mean, the whole issue was, so you became world champion at some point. What year were you world champion?
About 75, somewhere.
And, it's so amazing. The belts go with the champion. So those belts are with the current champion right now. And he was so funny. He said, well, what do you get? And he said, an 8x10 glossy. Well, you gave me one of those. This is... I don't know, what year was this from? Was this
about 70, back in 1975.
Man, what an amazing... And this, welterweight, what class?
I wasn't welterweight, I was heavyweight.
Heavyweight champion, jeez.
Yeah. All muscle, too. I mean, I had Rico come over one time, and he's retired, and we were working on my ranch, and I had to place some railroad ties. Well, railroad ties are really, I don't know, maybe over 100 some odd pounds or whatever. He picked one up just as simple as you please, put it on his shoulder like it was a piece of stick. I mean, it was just like a little piece of wood, and did it. But anyway, let me talk about the book. People can order it on Amazon.com.
Right.
Shooters, Heels, and Heroes. It's a very reasonable price book, and I tell you what, once you pick it up, you won't put it down. I've had people call and say, hey, I've ordered it, read it, unbelievable.
Yeah, let's give away one. Do we have time to give away one?
Sure.
541-772-8255, and we can even have them personalized. How about that? The book signing is this Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
But out at the Butte Creek Mill from 5 to 7, hors d'oeuvres and there and that kind of stuff. And look at the calls coming in. I don't know if we're going to take. Let's see if we get this one. Good morning. You're live on the Sunrise Show. Who's this?
I want that book.
All right, Dwayne, you hold on the line a second. We'll get that for you. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So Dwayne, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, Dwayne. Let's see here. Good morning. You're live on the Sunrise Show. Who's this?
Good morning. This is Elaine in Ashland.
Elaine in Ashland. I have a book for you. How
Wonderful.
about that? If you get it and then get it out to, of course, the book signing is on Wednesday. We could set you up there. So don't go anywhere. We'll put you on hold and then get this all taken care of. How's that?
Thank you very much.
All right, Elaine. Thanks for
Thanks,
hold on. See, there you go. They're just jumping all over the place. So, anyway, we've got to get going. Here's Dwayne. We'll put him on hold and get him his book, and then we'll close down the show. Fantastic, Rico. It's always great to have you in. I mean, you've been in the studio before, and great to see this book is finally out. Ladies and gentlemen, Rico Valentino, The Life and Times. You want to get to Amazon. That's how you pick it up. They'll have probably some copies at the book signing for sale.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
We'll
the
have
quickest,
books,
easiest
book
way.